Join ForumIAS Academy, trusted by hundreds of toppers, including IAS Rank 1 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 Sharma.
Good evening, aspirants. Welcome to the Hindu News Analysis discussion brought to you by ForumIAS for the date 24th of August 2023. These are the list of news articles for today's discussion. We'll be covering 5 topics from international relations, governance, a topic from science and technology, and from social issues. Alongside this, we will also be covering 2 previous year prelims questions at the end of the discussion. So with this straight away, let us move to our first article of the day. First topic, needed a well-crafted social security net for all. The author begins by saying that according to the Periodic Labour Force Survey Annual Report of 2021 to 22, around 53% of all of the salaried workforce do not have any access to social security benefit in India. This means that 53% of the employees have no access to provident fund, pensions, or disability insurance. Another derivation from the survey is that just 1.9% of the poorest 20% of India's workforce have access to any benefits. And meanwhile, gig workers, who constitute around 1.3% of India's active labor force, rarely have any access to social security benefits. So as a result, India's social security system is ranked poorly. For instance, we can see the Mercer CFS ranked India at 40th position out of 43 countries in the year 2021. Here the author says India's policymakers have largely ignored social security. While policies are often announced, budgetary allocations have always been limited and its utilization has been very low. If we take the fiscal year 2011, the National Social Security Fund was set up for unorganized sector workers. Know that it was given with an initial allocation of rupees 1,000 crores to support schemes for rickshaw pullers, BD workers, to name a few. But the requirement was over nearly 23,000 crores as estimated by the Center for Budget and Governance Accountability. So, the amount disbursed for NSSF was so low when compared to a requirement of nearly 23,000 crore. Also, the Comptroller and Auditor General of India audit on the NSSF scheme identified nearly 2,000 crores have not been utilized at all. Consequently, select social security schemes have not been implemented. Now, if we take the National Social Assistance Program that was set up in the year 1990s, this program was planned with a focus on old age poor individuals with no able-bodied earners in their household. So, since there were no one to earn in those households, old age poor of such households were eligible to earn a monthly pension of rupees 75. Know that the contribution made by the center to the old age pension scheme has stagnated to just rupees 200 a month since 2006. This is said to be below the minimum wage per day. Similarly, in the year 2022, the 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 report identified that the cess collected for the provision of social security to construction workers in Delhi was poorly utilized. That is, approximately 94% of the money was not utilized at all. Then in Haryana, if we take, the 𝐂𝐡𝐚𝐧𝐧𝐞𝐥 noted that direct benefit scheme of state's social justice and empowerment department had seen a transfer of around 100 crores to the account of deceased beneficiaries. But at the same time, budgetary cuts to MGNREGA scheme was also happening. Isn't this contrary? So that is what the author is mentioning in the first para. Then in the next para, the author talks about schemes overseas. In this para, the author says how social security schemes are implemented in other countries. For instance, Brazil's general social security scheme is contribution based and it provides alternative livelihood support for workers who might face loss of income. This covers any situation due to an accident at work, disability, death, illness or medical treatment, or even the prospects of unemployment is covered under the social security benefit. Even income loss that occurs due to workers being imprisoned is covered by the low income insured. In addition to that, unemployment insurance in Brazil is paid from worker support funds and healthcare is covered through the unified health system. Here you must know that the constitution of Brazil itself has established that if there is any lack of funds, then the national treasury should step in to ensure such social insurance support. And moreover, these social security benefits can be accessed with a simple phone call or just a visit to a bank without any requirements to submit endless documents. These are highlighted in Brazilian good practices in social security also. And now if we take India, approximately 91% of India's workforce works in the informal sector. And such a huge population lacks access to social security. Also, in 2 decades, India will become an aging population. And India will be an aging society. So if this scenario continues, then such informal workers with limited savings will have no significant social protection. Here, although Code on Social Security merged existing social security legislation, it dealt fundamentally with the formal enterprises and it did not cover informal sectors. So this is one concern here. And now in the next para, the author talks about the steps that India should take. Firstly, he suggests that India should aspire to provide social security to all of its workforce in the manner that is fiscally prudent. For that, we have to do 3 things. He says we must expand employer and employee contribution under the Employees Provident Fund Organization system for formal workers. Then for informal workers with a meaningful income, he suggests for partial contributions can be encouraged. Alongside this, we should persuade informal enterprises to formalize and expand their total contribution. Also, for those who are unemployed or stopped looking for job, he says government should step in. And then as a matter of fact, it is estimated that cost of providing social protection to the poorest 20% of the workforce would be around 1.37 trillion. That is the cost of approximately 0.69% of India's GDP. In addition to it, there are certain areas which has to be addressed and certain other reforms are also needed. Like there has to be some progress. Author says it was heartening to see government push for Code on Social Security in the year 2020 because this code sought to provide a statutory framework to enable social security for even urban and rural poor, construction workers and even those who engaged in gig economy. And the code also proposed the provisions of life insurance, disability insurance, accident insurance, as well as maternity and healthcare benefits along with old age protection. In addition to this, a push for greater digitization under the 𝐒𝐿 portal has also enabled the enrollment of approximately 330 million workers. Such enrollment only led to expanding coverage of accident insurance and disability. But however, the author says much more needs to be done. He says 𝐒𝐿 puts the burden of registration on informal workers who are required to furnish a self-declaration and share their Aadhaar card. But if we take the other end, there is no responsibility given to their employer to foster registration. Because we have to know bringing employers into the process would have enabled the formalization of employee-employer relationship. And by that way, we could have done much more pushing informal employers to make social security entitlements mandatory. So highlighting all these issues, the author suggests for greater support is required for financing social security for the majority of India's labor force. And there must be a push for Pan-India Labor Force Card and expansion of existing successful schemes such as building and other construction workers scheme. Then from gender perspective, author says special attention is required for domestic workers, especially female who are never sure when their employment may be terminated. And migration workers also often face discrimination and suspicion from authorities in their working area. So coverage of social security such as child care can be expanded to migrant workers also. Besides this, domestic workers must also organize themselves across Indian cities to leverage the benefit of social security. As a conclusion, the author says that time has come for India to consolidate its existing social security scheme and provide universal social security to its entire labor workforce. So that is all about the article. So in this opinion, we dealt with few facts relating to the formal and informal sectors, and also related to the schemes that were brought by the government, and also suggestions which the author has to say in this article. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the next topic. Second topic, the UK-India relationship is alive with opportunity. See, India and United Kingdom have shared historic ties for several centuries. Know that India-UK have a strategic partnership since the year 2004, and the India-UK relationship is multifaceted, spanning across trade and economy, health, science and technology, defense, people-to-people relations, and close cooperation on many multilateral issues. Even in the recently held bilateral talks, the Prime Minister of India and UK appreciated the progress made on the Roadmap 2030 launched at the virtual summit in 2021. Both the leaders reiterated their commitments to pursue a more robust and action-oriented cooperation across the full spectrum of bilateral relations. Now, let us know what progress has been made in the India-UK relationship. Now, if we take the economic perspective, during the year 2019 to 20, the trade between two countries stood at US dollars 15.45 billion, with the balance of trade in favor of India. Then between April 2021 to 2022, Indian exports to the UK stood at US dollars 9.5 billion, which is approximately 2.5% of India's exports, whereas the import in the corresponding period was just around 1.2% of India's total imports. So there is a scope for significant improvement, and moreover, both countries expect that the bilateral trade can reach up to US dollars 100 billion by the year 2030. Then in the defense and security areas, India and UK signed the Defense and International Security Partnership in the year 2015. This provides a strategic roadmap and direction to the evolving India-UK defense relations. At present, some 70 countries in the UK supply goods for aircraft and related equipments, besides supporting platforms like Jaguar, Kiran aircraft, etc. Then, if we take the Indian diaspora, around 1.5 million people of Indian origin live in Britain, and Indian diaspora are making significant contributions to the British society. This includes 15 members of parliament, 3 members in cabinet, and 2 in high offices as finance and home ministers. Then in the education sector, the UK-India Education and Research Initiative was launched in the year 2005. Then a new UK-India Education and Research Initiative Mobility Program was launched in the year 2019. Under this, Britain's universities collaborate with Indian partners and send UK students to India. Then in the health sector, the successful partnership between Oxford University, AstraZeneca, and SII on COVID-19 vaccine demonstrated the potential of India and UK expertise working together to solve the international challenges. The two sides are also working on pandemic preparedness, antimicrobial resistance, digital health, Ayurveda, and alternative medicines, as well as health worker mobility. So these are the progress which are made in the recent times. Then if we take the significance of this partnership, first is the regional and global issues of mutual interest. See, a healthy relationship between the two is imperative for enhancing cooperation in Indo-Pacific, UNSC, G20 and Commonwealth. For instance, India welcomed the UK's accession in the Indo-Pacific Oceans Initiative under Maritime Security Pillar. Then second factor is tackling climate change. The cooperation between them can be helpful to achieve the goals of Paris Agreement and in implementing the Glasgow Climate Pact. For instance, the countries have agreed to work for early operationalization of global green grids, which is the One Sun, One World, One Grid initiative under International Solar Alliance. Then the third point is supporting third world countries. Through the Global Innovation Partnership, both countries have agreed to co-finance to support the transfer of climate-smart sustainable innovations to third countries. This novel GIP fund created under this partnership will also aim to raise pounds 100 million from the market to support Indian innovation. Then know that India can engage with the UK to counter China's rise in the Indian Ocean region. And the UK, on the other hand, can use India as an alternative destination to China, and its companies can invest in India as a part of China plus one strategy. This is nothing but the business strategy to avoid investing only in China and diversify business into other countries. In addition to this, the author says UK and India's strong partnership extends far beyond trade and investments into culture, sports, education, and tourism too. That is the reason why the UK has come up with Alive with Opportunity, which is a 1.5 million pound marketing campaign that is designed to showcase the tremendous bond between India and UK. And moreover, this campaign is set to help build a continuous exchange of people, ideas, and culture. So that is all about the article. So in this article, we saw about the progress made and also the significance of the partnership. So with this, let us close this topic and move to the third topic. Third topic, National Curriculum Framework proposes board exams twice a year. Recently, the National Curriculum Framework got released by the National Council of Educational Research and Training, which is nothing but the NCRT. In that curriculum, students in classes 9 and 10 will need to learn 3 languages, out of which at least 2 will be Indian languages. And in classes 11 and 12, students will have to learn 2 languages, one being of Indian origin. We should know that the National Curriculum Framework follows the lead of National Education Policy 2020 and will form the basis for formulating new textbooks from classes 3 to 12. So from this context, let us know about the NEP 2020. See, the National Education Policy is based on the recommendations of Kasturi Rangan and TSR Subramaniam committees. NEP 2020 lays emphasis on reforms in education at all levels from pre-primary to higher education. It aims to bring transformation to the education system of India in line with the contemporary needs. Now, if we take the major provisions of NEP, first let us see with respect to the school education. First point, universalization of education by 2030 through 100% gross enrollment ratio from pre-primary to secondary is the one of the objective. Then open schooling system for out of school children, that is for students who dropped out of schools will be given open schooling system. Then 5+3+3+4 curriculum system replacing the existing 10+2 systems. Fourth point is that teaching will be in the mother tongue up to class 5 with no imposition of any language. Now if we take the higher education, broad-based, multidisciplinary, holistic undergraduate education will be provided with a provision of flexible curriculum, integration of vocational education, multiple entries and exit points with respective degrees, and also UG programs in regional languages. Then academic bank of credits to enable transfer of credits between institutions. Thirdly, Higher Education Commission of India will be established as an umbrella regulator except for legal and medical education. Then another point is that promotion of multilingualism in schools and colleges will be one of the objective under the National Education Policy. Then if we take other planned initiatives under the NEP, all institutions in the top 100 of NIRF, that is the National Institutional Ranking Framework, as well as those institutions that have A grade under the NAC certification will be allowed to participate in the credit transfer system. See, Academic Bank of Credit will keep record of academic credits of students and it will not accept any credit course document directly from the students. Rather, only the higher education institutions will have to make deposits in the student's account. Thereby, this will help in credit verification, credit accumulation, as well as redemption and promotion of students. Then the second provision is the engineering in regional languages. The government will also announce the launch of engineering degrees in regional languages in about 14 small institutions. Then thirdly, the government will also announce the establishment of National Digital Education Architecture and National Education Technology Forum. Now, if we take the challenges associated with the NEP, currently India is grappling with huge learning gaps. This is because the needs of children are more personalized and cannot be addressed through online mode of education alone. With the extension of school closures and fear of infection during the COVID times, many children lost touch with understanding, reading comprehensions and speaking skills. Then the second factor is the digital divide, which is also the cause of education divide in the country. Today in India, over 90% of students do not have devices that allow them to access online learning. Thirdly, when the government is calling for greater autonomy, several universities continue to function without full-time heads and vice chancellors. For instance, 10 central universities, including Delhi University and JNU, remained without full-time heads for a long time. Fourthly, the NEP asks for higher priority to literacy and numeracy, but the government has been reducing the school education budget, and even the higher education has suffered from less budget allocation. As a conclusion, we can say for the NEP to move forward, India needs a robust institutional mechanism and large-scale capacity building to create enthusiasm among the stakeholders. For that, every stakeholders at the state, district, block level has to have a form of kind of ownership and understand the concept of NEP. So that is all about the article. From this article, we saw about the NEP, the provisions of NEP, as well as the challenges associated with it. Fourth topic, Astra air-to-air missile test fired from Tejas in textbook launch. Recently, the Defense Ministry issued a statement that Astra missile release was successfully carried out from an aircraft at an altitude of about 20,000 feet. So from this context, let us know about Astra missile from prelims point of view. Astra missile. See, Astra is the indigenously developed beyond visual range air-to-air missile. This beyond visual range air-to-air missile technology enables fighter pilots to shoot precisely at an enemy target which are beyond their visual range. Also know that the missile has been developed by the Defense Research and Development Organization. As a matter of fact, the missile has a range of over 70 kilometers to 100 kilometers and it can fly towards the target at a speed of over 5,500 km per hour. This missile has a 15 kilogram high explosive pre-fragmented warhead, and so that the missile is also capable of engaging targets at different ranges and altitudes. Further, Astra missile also has some highly advanced features like electronic countermeasures or ECCM. This feature enables Astra missile to overcome defense measures put forth for the target by the enemy. Also know that the missile is often deployed on fighter jets like Sukhoi 30, Tejas of Indian Air Force and MiG-29K of Navy. Then as said earlier, the range is around 100 kilometers, and if we take the speed, the missile can travel at speed more than 4 times that of sound and can reach a maximum altitude of 20 kilometers, making it extremely flexible for air combat. Then if we take the significance, the Astra air-to-air missile with beyond visual range capability provides larger standoff ranges to fighter aircrafts. So this can neutralize adversary airborne assets without exposing themselves to adversary air defense measures. Note that standoff range means missile is launched at a distance sufficient to allow the attacking side to evade defense fire from the target. So these are the facts that are related to Astra missiles. So we have covered this from prelims perspective. That is all about the article. Now let us move to the fifth article of the day. Fifth topic, Goyal upbeat about G20 trade talks. The news is that Commerce and Industry Minister expressed confidence that the G20 Trade and Investment Ministerial Summit would deliver some actionable and concrete outcomes. So thereby it is expected to help the world withstand any future shocks like the supply chain crisis witnessed during the COVID-19 pandemic. Also, in the G20 Trade and Investment Working Groups, priorities including pursuing trade for growth and prosperity, building resilient global value chain, integrating MSMEs into global trade were taken up. So from this context, let us know about G20 covering prelims angle. See, the G20 grouping, which is a grouping of 19 countries, and the European Union was born in the year 1999 only as a consultation forum. This was a consultation forum between the finance ministers and central bank governors of world's major economies. But following the 2008 economic crisis, it became a forum between head of the state and governments aimed at improving coordination on the main global issue. As a matter of fact, at present, G20 nations represent 60% of the global population, 80% of global GDP, and 75% of global exports. Know that the G20 does not have permanent offices or employees. The country that presides over the group takes care of all the organization and the logistical coordination of the meetings. If you take the objectives of the G20, they are like providing policy coordination between its members in order to achieve global economic stability. Then they also try to promote financial regulations that reduce risks and prevent future financial crises. And the third objective is to create a new international financial infrastructure. Now let us see what are the achievements of G20 groupings. I will list it one by one. The main achievements of the G20 include increased participation of emerging countries in global issues, the reform of international financial institutions, the monitoring of national financial institutions. Then one of its achievement is the improvement in regulation of economies and creation of safety nets in order to prevent economic problems like global economic crisis in the future. Then there are few examples where G20 played a crucial role. First is the quick deployment of emergency funding during the 2008 global financial crisis. Then its role in the ratification of trade facilitation agreement. Then G20 have also driven reforms to the international tax system. In recent times, the ambit of issues under discussion has been expanded to include climate change, agriculture, health, education, water, etc. Now let us see what are the challenges that are associated with G20 grouping. The first major criticism includes that G20 is an informal structure. See, it has no permanent secretariat and the agenda changes every year according to the priorities of the presiding nation. So critics say that G20 basically was an extension of G7. Then the second criticism with respect to G20 is that G20 influences decision making of smaller countries. The smaller countries, which are not a group of G20 grouping, are forced to implement the declaration and commitments which are agreed by the G20 nations. For example, the G20 nations agreed to end international financing for coal power plants. So, small nations cannot get any finance from G20 nations for new coal power plant, and these small countries had to use its own limited financial resources or phase out coal and look for other alternatives. So by this way, one of the criticisms is that G20 influences the decision making of smaller countries. Then thirdly, G20 is not able to address challenges within the member nations. The G20 grouping is not able to solve the issues within its member nations like the US-China issue on trade, US-Russia divide on nuclear weapons, etc. Then other criticism is that G20 has no enforcement mechanism. See, the G20's toolkit ranges from simple exchange of information and sharing of best practices on common measurable targets. None of this is achieved without consensus, nor is it enforceable. Then another criticism is regarding the underrepresentation of the African continent. Except for South Africa, none of the African nations is a member of G20. Then know that G20 declarations are not legally binding. In conclusion, over the past decade, G20 has been an important forum for international cooperation, but to remain the same in future, there must be some reforms in G20. Else, G20 cannot be an institutional remedy for world's problem. So that is all about the article. Now coming to the previous year prelims questions, the two questions that we are going to discuss now has appeared in the year 2018. Consider this. First question, with reference to the provisions made under the National Food Security Act 2013, consider the following statements. First statement, the families coming under the category of below poverty line only are eligible to receive subsidized food grains. Statement 2, the eldest women in a household of age 18 years or above shall be the head of the household for the purpose of issuance of ration card. Statement 3, pregnant women and lactating mothers are entitled to a take-home ration of 1600 calories per day during pregnancy and for 6 months thereafter. Which of these statements given above is or are correct? The options given are option A 1 and 2, option B 2 only, option C 1 and 3 only, option D 3 only. See, first statement is wrong because the Act provides for coverage of up to 75% of rural population and up to 50% of urban population. This is for receiving subsidized food grains under the targeted public distribution system. Thus, on a whole, it covers 2/3 of the population. So, first statement is wrong. If we remove first statement, we will end up with option B or D. Second statement is correct because it provides the eldest women of the household of age 18 years or above to be the head of household. And if we take the third statement, this is wrong because besides meal to pregnant women and lactating mothers during pregnancy and 6 months after the childbirth, women will be entitled to receive maternity benefit of not less than 6,000 rupees. And since the second statement is correct, the answer for this question is option B, 2 only. Second question, with reference to digital payments, consider the following statements. Statement 1, BIM app allows the user to transfer money to anyone with a UPI enabled bank account. Statement 2, while a chip PIN debit card has 4 factors of authentication, BIM app has only 2 factors of authentication. Which of the statements given above is or are correct? The options given are option A 1 only, option B 2 only, option C both 1 and 2, option D neither 1 nor 2. See, first statement is correct. The BIM interface for money, which is the BIM, is a payment app that lets you make simple, easy and quick transaction using UPI. You can make direct bank payments to anyone on UPI using their UPI ID or scanning their QR with the BIM app. You can also request money through the app from UPI ID. So first statement is correct. Second statement is wrong because from a consumer point of view, there are 3 levels of authentication that are required in the app. It is not 2 factors of authentication. So one is the device ID and mobile number, then the bank account which you are linking to this app, then finally the UPI PIN which is needed to complete the transaction. So BIM app requires 3-factor authentication. This statement is wrong. The answer for this question is option A, 1 only. With this, we have come to the end of news articles and previous year questions discussion. Let us wind up our discussion here. If you like the video and if you can understand the concepts well, please like, comment, share and subscribe to Forum IAS Academy in various social media platforms for further updates. Thank you for listening.